Hello and welcome to my sixth video. My name's Ben, and in this video I wanted to showcase 4 different styles of grass you can do in your drawings. Now, one thing I would like to mention is that grass is something that I've struggled with many years. I've struggled with grass for many years, even when I was drawing really realistic drawings. It's one of the biggest downsides. So I thought I'd make a video on it, so hopefully people can also learn and find out that drawing grass isn't so bad after all. I have 4 different styles that I'll showcase today in this video. Let's move on to the first style, shall we? Before we start today's video, I did just want to mention that I'll be using an 8B pencil and a 4B pencil. 8B for the darker shadings and 4B typically for the lighter shadings. You may want to make note of that, but of course you can just use other pencils as well, but just generally have a darker pencil and a lighter pencil, as this will really matter when you do the grass. But if you don't have access to that, you can always just press down a lot harder when I say use your darker pencil, and press down a lot lighter when I say to use your lighter pencil. Anyway, let's go straight into it. So the first method I wanted to talk about is the grass clumps method. What is this method? Well, basically, get your pencil and sort of like draw lines that are sort of like faint, but also really close to each other. You want to also press down harder at the bottom of the line, but then get lighter at the top, so put less pressure on it as you go up. And then once you've done that, go over it again with your darker pencil and sort of really define those sort of darker bits at the bottom. Let's be honest, the sun comes from the top of the grass. It comes from the sky. It doesn't come from the earth. So it's going to obviously be light at the top. Once you've done that, move on to your next clump and repeat the same process. But don't make it touch the other clump. No, we don't want that. Make sure that it's sort of far enough away from the other clump, but also keep it close and also sort of make it go around the other clump. But don't be afraid to sort of make it touch sometimes, but generally try to limit that because that's how grass normally grows. And again, light at the top, dark at the bottom, go over it with your darker pencil and just repeat that process over and over and over again, like I'm doing here. One thing I'll also say too is when you do get on to some other clumps of grass, once you've done your first few, you might want to try and vary the length of your clumps and just vary the size of it. Don't make it all the same size, because obviously, grass is a natural thing. Not everything grows the same size. It's not computer generated. This is the real world, and at least that's what you're trying to create. And also, I do apologize for the poor sort of positioning of the grass. This is just for sort of tutorial, sort of like showcase sake. It's not really for display case. Although I do have a picture that I'll show you after this this part of the video, which does show what this could look like in practice. Also try as well to fill in the background with like your lighter pencil to make it so that it's not just white, and this can sort of also create the illusion of like more grass in the background. But also try to vary the sort of brightness as well. So maybe use less, maybe don't sketch in some bits to make it more reflective because there's no grass clumps nearby, but make it so when there is grass clumps nearby, try to make it a little bit darker like I'm doing here. As you can see, I'm putting a lot more lines here than a lot more pencil there than in the little bits in between the clumps. And finally, try to add some small grass clumps in between. You might want to vary the positioning of that as well, just to really make sure that it really looks natural. Don't mind me just going over this clump right now, just really redefining my grass clumps. You would probably want to do that sometimes. And that's it. Let's move on to the next bit. And this is how the grass clumps style could actually be used in context. As you can see here, you can clearly see that the different grass clumps being used. But you can also sometimes see some bits of grass in the background. Some clumps are darker than others. And again, once you really zoom out, it really does sort of create that sort of effect of realistic looking grass. But that's enough for this first style. Let's move on to the second style. So the next style I wanted to talk about is the grass strand style. And this style is basically where you just draw small little lines that are sort of next to each other, but are more sort of in different directions. It isn't just straight. Now, one thing I would want to mention is that this takes a very long time to do. This will only really be ideal for sort of small drawings, like say A4, maybe A5 even. It wouldn't be good for any A3 drawings unless you're really, really patient. But all this is you just draw different lines in varying directions. Don't vary it too much, of course, but generally try to point the lines upwards in diagonals. But then also try to make some areas more densely populated with these lines, and areas that are more less densely populated with these lines, as you can see here. And also look like some sort of like noise pattern. It look kind of like some sort of like noise pattern, I guess. And that's the effect you sort of want to get. It might not really look good right now, but in practice, this looks very much like real grass. I'll show you again another example at the end of the drawing process. But this is quite simple. There's not really too much to say about this one. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And this is how this style could be used in context. Before we move on to the next style, I would like to also show you very clearly that small lines have actually been drawn in this grass. It did take quite a long time, so yeah, like I say, do be warned. But if you do have that sort of patience, you can clearly see that it kind of looks like this sort of short grass. And both these drawings that I showcased are actually done in a previous video, so if you want to, you can always check this part out. You can always check these pictures out and the process and how I did these. But anyway, let's move on to style 3. The third style is a style I like to call the tall grass style. Basically, just draw grass extending upwards in one direction, and repeat this on top of that, extending in another direction, and repeat this process over and over and over again. What you also want to do is make sure to do this in between grass clumps, also extending in 2 different directions as well. Make sure the grass also curves as you go up, as is what natural grass is like. Also, one thing I would like to mention is that this is only really good for an eye level grass drawing, and this is because you can't really make the effect work. It just doesn't look really realistic if you were to put more grass on top. This is only really good for an eye level view, like I said before. It's not actually a style that I've actually done yet, so I have no images to show you, but I will definitely do this in the future. And this is actually a style of grass I was actually thinking of doing, especially on close-ups. Now, a few things I would like to add as well is, again, that you can actually add shading if you want to, but it can work without the actual gradient. And again, the gradient just comes within the fact that your grass is centered around 1 point. I do want to also verify that it doesn't have to be on 1 point, it just has to be around 1 point. And finally, make sure your grass is at different heights as well. So do some lines higher than others. Again, grass does not naturally grow the same height. But that's pretty much all I want to say about this one. And seeing as I don't have any images to show you, let's move straight on to the final method. And the final method I wanted to showcase today is the muddy grass or wet grass method. This method can be used for wet grass or muddy grass, but it can really just be used for anything. And again, it's going to really be sort of similar to the sort of clumps method that I talked about at the very beginning. But I guess it's just like another approach that you can take, and just allows a bit more freedom in terms of like the shape of your clumps as well. But it can also be used to get very similar results. But anyway, what you'll first want to do is use your light pencil to create different clouds. Make sure to vary the size of these clouds as you can then vary the size of the clumps, as again, you want that sort of natural looking feel. You then want to take your dark pencil and go over some of these clouds, making little clumps. You might also want to have some clumps have 2, some have 1. Again, sort of vary that around. And yeah, just sort of make small lines next to each other, very similar to how you did in the very beginning. like I'm doing here. Once you've done this, then with your light pencil, go over this and extend all these lines upwards to sort of give those bits of grass a sort of gradient. Again, we're focusing on sunlight. The sun doesn't come from the earth, it comes from the sky. So I know that's obvious, but then that's what you need to really think about when you draw these grass clumps. And again, the lightness in the background and the varying shades just sort of means that you don't have to do that little last bit at the end where you had to vary the shades of the grass. Like the variation of the shades is sort of already there, so you kind of looks like there's more grass in the background already. But of course, you can add some more grass strands in the background too that is a bit lighter to really add that bit of variation. But that's pretty much it. Well, there is no other methods, that is actually it. We have now reached the end of the video. One thing I do want to mention is that I can't show any reference for the previous style 4, the wet grass and the muddy grass, because the reference that I used and the image that I used, that I would have used if I was going to do the used in context part, was actually based upon a YouTube video that I saw on YouTube myself. I used to copy a lot of videos off of YouTube and also used to copy a lot of images online. I never posted them anywhere, of course, because I didn't have a YouTube channel back then, but it wouldn't be fair because of obviously copyright restrictions. But just thought I'd let you know that. Just thought I'd let you know. But yeah, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. There will be YouTube shorts of this soon, which won't go into detail, but would be good for a fresh reminder of how to draw grass. But anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!